And we're back after a few weeks off due to the COVID lockdown. It's good to be back here today. Got some very special guests. We've gone through most, and now we've got the under-21 coaching staff in today. We've got Oliver Stankovski and Antony Burlak. Welcome, guys. First ever appearance on Paco Radio. Great to have you on board.
Thanks very much. Very happy to be here, and obviously thrown in the deep end for the radio station.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I guess for those that don't know, those that are tuning in, I guess tell us a little bit about both your roles at Pascoe Vale and, how it all started.
Well, I've been at the club now. This is our fourth year.
Yep.
Anth, you've been in
Five for me for my fifth year.
So I started with the under-18s going back 4 years ago, and really that was through one of the former coaches there, senior coaches, Nick Kovacevic, brought me to the club back in those days, and really gave me an introduction to Dean Hennessy. And then we had a bit of a discussion with Dean Hennessy, and he came out and had a coffee with me at work.
Yeah.
So eager that Dean was, as Dean is, and it was good to have a catch up and discussion about everything, and took on the under-18s, and it was a good year. We undefeated, won the league, good generation, and that year I think the under-21s also won the championship with Nick.
Yep.
So we had a real good crop of young boys coming through. So that was the start of the journey.
About yourself, Antony, how did it all start with you?
I think the coffee thing with Dean must be a pretty common theme because he did the same thing. He gave me a ring. I just took my first steps into coaching at La Trobe University.
Yep.
And I'd spent a couple of years there, and I was sort of looking to move on. Had a young family, but in the end, Dean found out through I think the same guy, Nick Kovacevic, to be honest, that I'd stepped away from coaching at La Trobe, and he gave me a ring and said, you interested in coming down? We've got a good team of kids. At that stage, it was under 15s. What sort of helped as well is I was looking to bring my son, who was 7 at that stage, to a club. Know people at the club at Paco, for a long time. My brother played there for a couple of years. I've got an older brother, but also sort of, Jim and the family are sort of, they knew my late father very well. So, there was a connection there as well. So it was pretty easy to make the decisions to come across.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you both have been there for quite some time. You've sort of seen the way things have gone. And we'll go back a little bit later on in the show a little bit and talk a bit about both your careers. But we'll start off talking a bit about, your seasons to date, talking a little bit about this season in particular. It's been a challenging one. We've had some football compared to last year, but it's been, stop, start. You're back last week, a win at home. Take us through that.
Yeah, but obviously in lockdown for a couple of weeks. And look, I've got to give credit to the boys. We put a program to them and sort of kept them going through that time, and mainly running and a little bit of ball work in that program just to keep them as much as we can, in the lockdown period. But we came back on the Wednesday night, had a pretty solid session. We sort of decided with the under-19s coach to see if we can have a hit out. We thought it was important to try and get the cobwebs off straight away. And then that sort of worked really well. I thought that was a good opportunity for us to just get back into the groove of things. And then Friday night we did a bit of tactical, and on Saturday the boys came in and did a real good job.
Yeah, and I mean, tough sort of game, but you've had a really good season to date. I mean, second on the table, things are looking really good at the moment. How do you keep the momentum going at this point with all these shutdowns? Is it challenging as a coach when you've got these shutdowns and you just have to keep the guys sort of match ready, because at any point you're back and you're ready to go?
Look, I'll say this: we don't necessarily look at the ladder.
Yep.
For us, it's and the boys have been well aware it's about individual and team performance. We've got a saying that within our group that if you're beating your man, you're beating your opposition. You as a team, you're working collectively. You've got the team principles in place. What we set up as a club philosophy from senior all the way through to through the 19s. It's if you stick to those key priorities and key principles within the group and you do the right thing, the results will come. And for us, it's for both me and Bills, it's really been focusing on those key elements of what the boys need to do. And so for us, I keep saying, look, you do well. Don't worry about the ladder. David Chick's going to look at you.
Yeah.
You know, Dean Hennessy and, you know, the rest of the football group are going to look at you, and that's a key, because it's not just what we see and what we report on. It's a collective group that we work and talk about it. And obviously with Dave, I speak quite a lot with him, and you know, it's just regular, constant updates about where the boys are at. What do we need to improve on? What individually? What's you know, what's the key for that person to grow? And so, that's the key focus for us. But second on the ladder, it's okay. We're at the end of the year, if we're on top, that's probably better, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah. How yourself, Antony?
I think the measurement, as Ollie said, is how many boys get the opportunity to train with the seniors based on their performances, and that's real. I think the one key message that we continue to communicate to the playing group, and to his credit, you know, Chicky's very honest and very open in having a conversation with us, looking at the guys, bringing them across to train with the seniors, giving them those opportunities, showing them the what's required to be able to step up to play senior football, you know, at MPL 2 level. So I think the motivation is there. The playing group is young enough also to want to be there, want to participate, want to get the best out of themselves. So, you know, I don't think motivation is not a massive factor that we have to drive, but ultimately I think, you know, creating that culture of the environment that they can come and flourish and do well and, you know, be successful and grow, you know, sort of the key principles outside of football that we sort of try and focus on as well.
We talk about culture, environment and opportunities. And I mean, this season we've seen it. Players have gone down to the seniors and we've seen players get that opportunity. I think back to even the FFA Cup, seeing some guys get that chance on the senior level. How rewarding is it when you see a player from the 20s transition to play, whether it is off the bench or in the starting 11 in the senior team?
I think our key, if you want to call it KPI, is how many boys we can get into the senior team. That's the main goal. It's not necessarily, and you know, hopefully Lou agrees with this, but I know he does because he said it to me a number of times. But it's not about where we finish on the ladder and whether we win games. It's more about how many of these boys are we developing and what stage they are at to really challenge some of the guys that are in the seniors. And I think with the results within the senior group and obviously with our team, it's really provided that atmosphere of pushing each other, because even last night we had one of the boys went across and look, he did well, and that's what we want to hear. We want to hear the feedback that, you know, when they're going over to the seniors, that they're fitting in. There's not a level of discrepancy between what the senior level is and the 21s level. We want to try and keep those boys at a pretty good par. You know, we've really focused on individual fitness and fitness of the group, so that that they're ready when they step up, when they get the opportunity, that they, I suppose, put the best foot forward for themselves. Because you know, times we see that guys get the opportunity, they're not ready, and so we speak about that with Chick as well, David. You know, regarding where they're at, you know, not only playing wise but mentally and physically, and so they're the key elements of what's going to decide where these boys going across. And look, there are boys that are eager to get across. They're always eager. They're always wanting to go across. It's just whether they're ready to do, you know, to make that step. That's the key element. And look, we're very happy that, you know, over the last couple of years we've had a really good bunch of youth come through, and I think that's testament to, you know, the club and the culture that we provide. And I mean, I watch a lot of the youth from under 16s, 15s, all the way through to, you know, 18s, 19s age group. So we know what's coming through as well. We openly speak with all the coaches where they're at and what we need to look for in that level. So we're always keeping our guys on their toes too. Last night we had 4 of the under 16s come in and train with us, and that sort of reinvigorates the guys as well, because you know, those guys really push them. So that's what we want to see.
Yeah. And I mean, for those, just excuse sort of my sort of lack with the sort of the way it works, bringing guys up from the 18s, 16s. Do you guys, is that allowed during the season? You guys can just bring up a certain amount, or is there sort of a limit on how that works?
No, well, I regularly talk with Nick, the under 16 coach, and Ivans, who's the 17s at the moment. And look, even with Vlada, we openly communicate I'm always, both me and Bills are always looking at players, who, how, what, and you never know when there's an opportunity going to come up, and obviously whether it be injuries, whether it be, where they're at in their career, or someone's just really performing. I mean, we've had instances in our club over the years where you've had an under 16 player play in the seniors. With John, only 3 or 4 years ago, and went on a run and scored in the seniors a couple of games. So, look, it's important. Jesse Barber a couple of years ago, got his opportunity in front of goals at Hume, scored. These opportunities, they come, and it's about whether they grab them and whether what they do with it. That's the key element of it.
And I'm assuming you find that probably for what you both see is when players do go up and then they come back, maybe if it's only for that short period, they're better for it. Is that something that you notice straight away? Or is that something you notice over time?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of facets around that which is really important to understand. Is that they come back better for it, but they also can come back demotivated as well. And it's really important that us as a group, including the senior coaching staff, all sort of rally around that player and give them the feedback that they need to hear. The reasons why there's been a step backwards on that path, and we try and focus on the development of that and giving them the feedback and the thoughts and ideas, but not just that, experiences as well that we can share to help them take those steps forward again. And I think that's really important. So, it's they do bring some great things back into the training. But it's really important that we, continue to support those players and give them those opportunities and help them work hard for those opportunities again to take the step back up.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean as well, when you guys set up, obviously, when you're losing players going up and down and everything else, and you got players that maybe coming back from injury. Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask, how has the challenge of that in terms of setting up tactically? Because obviously, it's not like with the seniors or another team where you got a core group. Yeah. Your team is almost changing every week.
Correct. How many have training on Friday, I think? 11, 12? Yeah.
Look, it's part of the role.
Yeah.
The under-21s coach, and both me and Bills understand. Look, it happened to me on last night. Dave running across going, I need one now, and he's like, yep, there you go, session.
Yeah.
Change something completely, and you've got it's almost coaching on the run as well too. Yeah. And I suppose the guys understand it to a degree too, but you've got to have that rapport with the playing group to understand that there are things that they're gonna impact that. So, but it's when you talk about strategy, both me and David, like I said, we talk a lot throughout the week. So I've got an idea roughly where things are at from the senior structure. We understand that on occasions it could be a Friday midnight call going, you've got X, and so I'll have to rejig things. And,
yeah.
Dave likes doing that to me, or a Saturday morning call going, this might change, or a Friday night.
Yeah,
it happens, and I think, look, testament to the boys, we can gel and adjust, and it's about our preparation. Roles and responsibilities with the team isn't just given to one person. It's everyone knowing exactly what the game plan is. It's everyone understanding what the key principles of what each position is what we're looking to achieve. And look, if someone comes in, that role is communicated and is expected, because we play exactly the same like the seniors. We do have some flexibility to a degree.
Yeah.
And we change it to suit, but the philosophy, the mentality is exactly the same. And that's probably what's helped that blending approach to what we're trying to achieve with the 21s and the seniors. So that's the key.
And I mean, the relationship between 21s coach and seniors is as I said, it's an interesting one. Like I'm just curious. So how does that? What is the relationship like? Is it because obviously David Chick, we know, very great guy, very good with his communication, everything. How do you see it from your perspective?
I had more black hair. No. Look, Dave. I had the opportunity to work with Dave a couple of years ago with the seniors. Obviously, it was an unfortunate year coming halfway, and testament to the then coach Vitali. A long time at the club, and obviously worked. Part of the reason why our junior structure is the way it is, it's worked. And we've sort of kept on that philosophy. But with Dave, it's he's a good communicator. He understands exactly what he wants, and that's very important. In particular for us, so that we then can communicate that to our guys as well. Yeah. You need to have that good rapport, so that when we're developing these boys, that there's no false impressions, there's no false communications on what their expectations are to go forward on their job. So my expectation is from him and from him of my expectation is making sure these boys are ready. So when they do get called up, there's no excuse. There's just opportunity that's presented. Yeah,
and I think just to add to that, I think one of the key things that does assist and support that is that David's really open.
Yeah.
Like, he's an open book. He'll tell you what he thinks. He'll tell you what he feels. He'll tell you, what he had for dinner yesterday. So, but he's an open book. So there's nothing there that he's got hidden, that he's trying to hide from us. So, and that just helps that relationship develop really well. And it's two-way. Yeah, we communicate everything that we need, that he needs to hear from us, and it comes down the ladder as well. Yeah,
no, for sure. Guys, we'll take a quick break. We come back, we'll talk a little bit about yourselves. We want to get to know a little bit about, I guess, your careers, your playing and coaching careers, get to know a little bit more also about your time at Pasco Vale. And we'll get into that a little bit after the break here on Paco Radio. Don't go anywhere.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website, dkpco.com.au, or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Buying your electricity from the big energy companies is now the most expensive way to power your home. In fact, the average electricity bill in Australia has more than doubled in the last 15 years. But not for the ones who went solar. Unlike your electricity bill, the price of solar has actually come down, and there's also government rebates available. So what are you waiting for? Join the 2 million households already saving hundreds of dollars every year. See how much your roof could be making you at solarpowerco.com.au. Go solar and get $500 cash back with the Solar Power Co, Australia's most trusted solar brand. solarpowerco.com.au.
Since 1998, Lanco Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
We are more than engineers. We are more than project managers. We are more than surveyors. We are more than infrastructure specialists. We are more than planners. So, who are we? We are problem solvers, providing the highest quality service and results. We are a team of skilled professionals, focused on customer needs and outcomes. We are 23 years of industry experience, adhering to the highest safety standards. We are Melbourne, and we are right across Victoria. We are the Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions. Lanco Group. We are more than you realise, and we are ready to partner with you.
You're listening to Paco Radio, brought to you by Senol on FNR, Football Nation Radio.
Welcome back to Paco Radio here on FNR Football Nation Radio, brought to you by Senol. It's been a big show so far. Nick Tabana here with Oliver Stankovski and Antony Burlak, the coaching staff of the under-21s. Missed any of the show so far, make sure you go back to our Spotify, SoundCloud, catch up with all of that. We'll cut the show up, make sure it's up straight afterwards. We spoke a little bit about the season to date, spoke about, sort of how the different challenges and everything else of really the under-21s coaching staff. And to be honest, coming into tonight, I had no idea sort of what the different, how challenging it actually was with the chopping and changing and everything else. But Now we're moving into, I guess, the fun part, the career, both your careers. I'm curious to sort of hear about how you both fell in love with the game. We ask this question every time here, you know, sort of how it all started for you guys when you started off, sort of, you know, your first memories of football. So where did it all start for you guys?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go.
All right. It's hard to say when you fell in love, but I've got an older brother who's 6 years older than me, so a fair bit older. He started playing at a certain age, and I think I was first registered to play for my junior club, which is the only ever club I played for, at the age of 5. I think I played under 9s 4 years in a row, so 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, up until 9, until we were sort of old enough and had a team that was the same age to be able to continue. I think the one thing about, you know, and you hear a lot about community, the club was a community club. It was called Northern United.
Yep.
We had, you know, I had cousins there. We had friends, people from the same country, people from the same villages as my parents. So, you know, it was a real, it was a small club, but it was a real community club.
Yeah.
You know, I played with some of my cousins, you know, that are the same age as me, and other cousins were in other teams. So being at the club felt like family, as I'm sure you've heard with a lot of people that you've spoken to, So being at the club felt like family, and that just the love for the club and the love for the game developed from there.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I played from the age of 5 till the age of 18 at the club. So that's quite a few years. Yeah.
Yourself, Oliver?
Oh, very similar to Bill's, but with obviously within the Macedonian community, there was only one team that we all sort of lingered around. You know, the mighty Preston back in the days. Look, I almost part of the family. You know, some people that we grew up with over time not only became friends but lifelong friends. You've got, you know, we started like Bill's very early, very, very young. Went all the way through the system at Preston. Unfortunately, a couple of injuries. I had three knee recos, and that sort of worked out. Unfortunately for me with at Preston, but look at that. You never take away the experiences, and I was very fortunate to have some very, very good coaches in my time, like Oscar Crino and Donchevsky and Simo Velkovsky, and some of these really, really greats that were at that club, and really instilled quite a bit of football sort of knowledge within the, you know, sort of the understanding where you know what you want to bring out of at your game. But really, you know, those injuries that I had also made me love the game even more.
Yeah.
It's quite strange. You know, a lot of people ask why 3. I just couldn't give up.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for my surgeon at the end, it said, mate, you got it. If you want to walk when you want to play soccer with your kids and walk, you better look at retiring. And you know, I finished when I was 27, I think 27, 28. But, you know, my playing career went out to after Preston to Richmond. Played at Richmond for a couple of, I think, 3 or 4 years, and then finished up at Tal with Jeff Oliver back at the day.
Oh wow,
he was a coach. But look, you never know. You know, I say this to some of our players. You never know where your career will take you. You never know what opportunities you got, and don't take it for granted, because you just don't know how much time you've got in the game. And always, you know, I don't say look at Plan B, but just always make sure you've got yourself well grounded. That you know you've got opportunities to do other things. And you know that was the experience that I had with with football. And look, like I said, Preston was a very big part of my background, and sort of gave me the next steps for the journeys going forward. And we sort of crossed paths very briefly back in those days too. But yeah, look, it's it was good memories.
Yeah, for sure. And your playing career as well?
After my time at my junior club, followed my brother again, you know, to Green Gully, and started off in the reserves there, and got sort of picked up into the senior squad as we're seeing these kids experience it at Paco, and was part of the seniors makeup there for 3 years, 92 to 94. Then took a bit of a leap of faith and went to Thomastown. And from Thomastown, after they got relegated, I think, from the Premier League, we got them back promoted to the First Division, and then I got a call to go down to Springvale, which was White Eagles at the time. So I spent a couple of years down there, got them into the Premier League, played there with them, and then I think the guys at Preston came calling. And again, funnily enough, and I didn't follow him this time, my brother was at Preston at the time, right? So they called, and I was travelling from the northern suburbs to Springvale, and I went, you know what, it probably makes more sense. Starting a working career as well, so you got to juggle that stuff. So it made sense to go down to Preston. I spent 3 years down at Preston with Antony, and then Vladivanish came in and took over as well. And then I suppose after that, I took a bit of a leave of absence and did a bit of travelling around Europe. I think we all did.
yeah. Well, we all wish we could do right there as well.
Yeah. So up until that time, sort of, I was pretty serious about it. But at that point in time, I sort of made a decision to see the bit of the world and came back a different person, came back a little bit more relaxed person. And again, continued to play. I played up until I was 35. So other clubs play for Fitzroy City. They're playing promotion teams there as well. North Coburg, who's Hume today, was part of their promotion team as well. So, and then spent, I think, the last 5 years, 5 or 6 years at Williamstown. So, in the old State 2 it was. So, yeah, but had about a 15-year career 17-year career in senior football almost.
Seems like any team that need to get promoted, just call you up.
Yeah, it was. It's sort of. I was very lucky like that.
Yeah.
That I had the opportunity to play in some good teams, both at the VPL, but also in sort of the couple of leagues below. But put some good teams together, and was lucky enough to be involved in some good years, good footballing years.
Well, you both spoke about, especially with Preston, and sort of that feeling of community and being part of it. And obviously, there was a period. Probably we're starting to rediscover that now. That sense of really wanting to be part of that. And we saw with the Football Belongs documentary and everything else. And we kind of lost it for a bit. That sense of pride. How have you guys seen that transformation? I mean, it's probably before my time, but especially for what you guys have seen from when you were very young to now. I mean, have you guys seen that?
Look, for me, as I said before, it's growing up was family. It was community. It was everyone knew everyone, and over a period of time, maybe with the A-League coming in, it sort of lost its way a little bit.
Yeah.
I honestly, there was a good period. I'd say when I retired, there was a 4 or 5 year period that I just walked away from the game completely. I got married, had kids. It was the furthest thing on my mind, and. Little time went past, and I was fortunate enough to get a knock on the door. The club down in Noble Park, Macedonian club, and they asked me for some advice. I knew the president at the time, and I went out there and had a look at a couple of their sessions, and then no want or need of coaching. It was more or less us having a conversation, working through things, and then funny enough that year, the next year I was their coach. So, I was there for a good 5 or 6 years as the senior coach at Noble Park, promoted them from State 5 to 4, and really worked with a very young group of boys. I'm still very close with a lot of those that generation of boys that went through that era, and look, that sort of established the love, if you want to call it, to the game. And at the same time, while coaching at Noble Park, I got the call to go help out at Preston because they were struggling at that stage. I do remember those times where you look around, there wasn't much. You'd sort of scratch your head, go, where has it gone? Why has it gone so backwards? And I remember Zoran Trajčevski back in the day, gave me the call and said, look, we need your help. Can you work out and see what you can do and help us out? And so I think I took the under 10s just to work out, and my son was there as well. 9s or 10s, one of those, and then it just sort of built from there, and from under 10s went through Preston under 15, I think with 14s, 15s, 18s, did the reserves there. Also that year, Lou came across, and so we really saw that launching platform for Preston, and that was really good. You could see the momentum growing, you could see the professionalism sort of growing in that aspect of not only for the structure within the community, but also within the coaching staff, and you could see the players were starting to work through. So. I finished the end of the season with Preston. I think we finished second that year too. And then at that stage, I think that's where Nick called me because he heard that I just left Preston, and that next journey came on, and it was a good opportunity. And so I said, no problems.
Yeah. I mean, you spoke about that there was never any sort of hope to coach. Like, it never really crossed your mind at all. What was there a moment that sort of just went, this is for me?
I think it was, I actually do remember, I do recall it was in our first game at Noble Park, and I was sitting down. I think we lost. I think we lost 2-1. It was a very close game, and we did all pre-season. I ran the guys pretty rugged, and I remember sitting back and going, you know what, this is going to be fun.
Yeah,
this is going to be fun. I actually really enjoy that. Regardless if we lost, I really enjoyed it. Took the challenge, and I think we only lost one game all year or 2 games all year that year, I think, from memory. But it was that point where I just said, that love started to come back, and obviously I also wanted to provide an environment for my kids too. My boys were quite young, and I wanted them to get involved and just have a look around and be a part of a club. Back in the day it was like I said, it was Noble Park, but then they started playing at Preston. They grew up Preston up, from very young to the under 13s. I think the oldest one that year won the under 13 state champion. Champions, and then when we decided to leave Artie because we just felt that the NPL system at that stage would probably be an opportunity for him, and Nick Georgopoulos, he was part of that Nick Georgopoulos group. He's in that team with Nick at the moment in the under 16s, and he stayed there for the last 4 years. And look, that's the environment I think we wanted to provide our kids, is that football environment, and whether it's at Preston, whether it's at Pasco Vale, it's that community, community spirit. I think that's the key.
I think you touched on something that's really important, is that because we grew up in community environments, we want our kids, like my son's 10, he's playing in the under 11s, but we want him to feel part of the club, and I don't want him to feel. And I'm not saying everyone's like this, but it's just because of, I think, our the way we were brought up, is that I didn't want to be the parent that just takes him there, drops him off, plays a game and goes home. Being part of the club gives us a sense of belonging, gives us a sense of community, gives us friendships. You mentioned friendships for life. We've all made friendships for life through football. So wanting him to feel that, so that he's got some confidence about himself, and knowing that he can go somewhere, and knowing that he can actually talk to people, older, younger, whatever it might be, and they'll know him as well, And I think that's a really important part of getting involved in the club to start with. And I think that was the key driver behind me getting involved, was really to support him and his development, not necessarily in football, just his personal growth development as well, So, but being part of that community is really helpful to that as well. So I think that was one of the key drivers for me.
I think there's one word that both me and Bells heavily believe, and I suppose even with our under 21s boys that we talk about, is a respect aspect. And no matter in which football community you've got, it's that respect, that you're a footballer, and so that transcends all the way through each age, and we try and instill that. I know most coaches, nearly every coach I know, tries to instill that respect and, understanding who the older person is and respecting that older person. It's not about, I've got to give respect or they demand respect. It's about just respecting that these people are here to support you. They're here to work with you. They're here to educate you and provide you an environment that is for you to develop. And I think that was the key for us in when it comes to our boys. And
but talking about community, so my wife's got a joke that wherever we go somewhere, that I'll bump into someone that I play against, right? And this happened in Europe, mind you, as well. So it's a broad community that you've always got friendships and connections and relationships with, and it was important to me. And whether my son ends up playing soccer his whole life or not, I just wanted to give him that grounding around, community and being part of something.
Absolutely. And I think when you're in your teenage years, even I think when I was playing my teenage years, you think about sort of that, it's that excitement, the fact that you got something to look forward to after, a tough day at school, and you want to get out and you want to see your mates and you want to go and just have a kick, whether you're there for the social aspect or for the actual, you got those real ambitions. It's massive. And also as well, I feel like you learn so much in a football club in terms of life lessons, like, resilience, humility, everything else, and even just small things like learning how to lose,
Correct.
learning how to maybe not get something your way. If a referee doesn't, if you don't get a call doesn't go your way or something like that, you learn that sort of stuff. And I think that's a massive part of it. Your coaching career, Antony, I'm curious to hear. You mentioned Latrobe University as well. I'm curious to hear. So, did you coach Latrobe as in the university team, or was it like an actual club that came out from that?
There's a club associated
Right,
with the team.
yeah.
So, I was sort of looking at it. Like Ollie, I think I took 5 years away from the game. And I was talking to a good friend of mine, Cam Simsek, who I played together with at Preston. And he's got connections down at Latrobe, and they were looking for a coach, and he rang me and he said, "You interested?" And I wasn't sure. So I had a chat with him, and eventually said, "All right, we'll give it a go." And spent a couple of years there, and Latrobe's a lot different to how other clubs operate. It's run by the players.
Yep.
There's no sort of the players of the committee.
Yep.
The players of the supporters. They're great in that they've got 7 or 8 different teams. A lot of they've got men's seniors, seconds, thirds, fourths, then masters and metro teams, and then I think 3 girls teams. So great setup. Facilities are amazing down there. But it's not the same as a community club.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a university club, and they do things amazing down there, and they work their butts off just like everyone else does. So I spent a couple of years down there. And enjoyed it, but it was challenging because they're a community club. Even though we were in State 3, you're competing against teams who pay players, and players for that club pay to play. And so you're trying to attract. You can't attract players, or if you can, it's through friendships and through existing relationships. And we had a couple of really good competitive years there, which was fantastic. So spent a couple of years there, and then I was thinking that I wasn't sure whether I wanted to stay, and I got a call from Pasco Vale, and I was looking again, like I mentioned before, get my son involved, and that was sort of the deal breaker for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that is interesting about a university club because you don't usually hear too many people that go and play for the uni clubs, and that is an interesting point about not being able to attract players because they genuinely have to just sign up.
Correct.
And as a coach, that must just be extremely challenging because you're coming up against, we know the state league rules are very different to the NPL rules. We've seen it, how when teams have gotten promoted and, the change, they have to cull players and everything.
Yeah.
It must have been quite difficult at that time.
It's probably... There's some obviously advantages and disadvantages. In terms of the advantages, the players are there because they want to be there, right? Because they pay to play, they want to be there. They're generally a good group of friends. There are some new uni guys that come in and get involved. So from that perspective, it's really positive. And the guys want to be there, but then to also instill some discipline and principles around turning up to training, behaviour, the way we communicate, et cetera, et cetera. It's really hard because you can't actually then instill what we were brought up with, you get paid to play, so you get some fines, So you got to come up with different ways to be able to try and discipline, and it becomes through training, performance. But, to the credit of the guys that were there at that time, they were a great bunch of guys. They were dedicated, committed. They wanted to be there for themselves and for their friends, for each other. But it certainly brings different challenges. It was good times. It was interesting, but really good times.
Yeah. So did you coach anywhere else before that, or was it just Latrobe?
I think it was 4 years since I stopped playing.
Yeah.
That I had a bit of a break, and then they sort of reached out through a friend, and I think that's usually how it happens. Yeah, someone that thinks, you might be a good fit, and so you sort of...
Did you similarly have a light bulb moment? Very similar, sort of where you went, this is it?
Still waiting for it.
Still waiting for it.
I've got, the bug's the bug. There's, we all have lives and have families and have children, and we just need to juggle priorities. And, for the time being, I've got some family priorities that we're working through, and, they're obviously key and important. And my way of being able to contribute and be part of the club is to, support Ollie and the under-21s. And, I think we work really well together. We share ideas freely and openly, and it didn't take long, I think, for that to start as well. Yeah,
I think the key is, like I said before, is about the respect side. I think both of us understand and know what we can bring to the table. And I mean, very early on, when I had the conversation with Bells, this has gone back, even in the first year. I just said to Bells, look, I actually don't see him as an assistant. I see him as a head coach.
Yeah.
So we both work with respect with what we're looking to improve with the boys. We're there to develop the guys. That's the key. That's a key element of what that playing group is about. Is that they've got X amount of time. We've got X amount of time to develop them, and really we've got to try and work through that. And look, there are times when Bells hasn't been there, and there are times that I haven't been there, and we work really well in working through those life difficulties we have, like a full-time job, and the stresses that has. And but yeah, that's the key. It's understanding the respect aspect of what we can deliver.
I mean, the head coach, assistant coach relationship I've always found as an interesting one as well. I guess, without throwing you guys both under the bus, each of each other.
Yeah.
What's the relationship like between you two? Just curious.
Oh, look, I
let him go off his nut when he needs to, and then I just rein him in a little bit.
Yeah,
perfectly said.
Because literally, I was having the same conversation with David and Harold about sort of their relationship. He says, I sort of sit back, and then once David starts, I just sort of bring him in just a little bit. That sort of the same kind of thing.
Yeah, very much so. And I actually had a funny moment because there was a game that Bells wasn't there, and I looked to the bench because I was expecting someone to calm me down. I looked at Bells wasn't there, and I think I got a yellow card that game. But look, as coaches, we get very passionate.
Yeah,
both of us. We get moments within the game, and obviously I'm on the edge throughout the whole game, and I think the respect aspect that I've got for Anthony sees things that potentially I don't necessarily see, and I see things sometimes, and we challenge each other.
Yeah.
And I think as coaches, I'll make this very clear. We're never right.
Yeah.
It's just this philosophy that we've got. No coach, any coach that turns around and say, my principle is the best ways, it's just his principle. It's very rare to, to be always right and get it always right. Coaches win, coaches lose games. I think we both said that we are constantly learning as well, and that's why it's a journey. It's a journey with those boys, and what we do as part of that journey and how we develop them. It's part of that journey.
Yeah.
And we're quite open with the boys. I think that's
definitely.
The really good element that both of us why we tick quite well with each other. I mean, he shares his mind and I share my mind, and we allow the boys to a certain degree to give their opinion on certain things, and I remember only, I think after week 3 or 4 of pre-season when we sat down and practice game I'm talking about, we just wasn't sure. I'm well known within the club not to win any practice games. Everyone knows that I don't believe in practice games, and it's more about me getting the guys, and that's where I learn about what they can do, what they can't do.
Yeah.
So I don't look at the result. I look at how many things I can throw at a game and get it wrong. So I know in the season what not to do, what to do.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a pattern, and both of us Bells, we just sort of worked it with the boys and guys, we're sort of noticing that you guys aren't trusting each other. And we really put it to the boys. We said, guys, if you want to win games, you got to learn to trust each other and build on that rapport and build on that camaraderie and really work, through situations in the game, because that's part of your growth. That's part of the development. That's not something that, we can instill in certain ways, especially on the training park, but, that's part of their, the understanding with these young guys when they're coming through that, we're not going to hold their hands the whole time. They've got to throw them in the deep end at some point in time and see whether they can swim. And sometimes, that might mean that I throw them into the senior mix.
Yeah.
And whether they sink or swim. And unfortunately, that's the nature of senior football. But but it's part of, if they do sink, it's about bringing them back in the fold and understanding why. What was the element that we need to work on, and that's where David's very important, and then we work on those key principles, and then we build on that again and get the ball rolling all over again. So
you spoke about trust and building trust among players, like sort of that sort of how you can trust your teammate in certain situations. How do you build it if there's that lack of trust? Because it's something that it's not up to you. Like, you guys can't do it for them. They've got to find it in themselves to do it. Is there certain exercises that you try and implement that try and at least push them along a little bit?
Yes, there are. Like I said, during training there are drills and game analysis and ways of understanding what each one can do. But it's also about, how I've looked at it is looking at getting players to look at what other people's abilities are, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and look, if you can get a team that can understand the group's strengths and weaknesses and not play on the weaknesses but play on the strengths, then that instills trust. But it's also about getting that rapport with them, so that they can they can express it freely between each other. And I'm not talking about fists and
No,
all the rest of it. I'm talking about them openly talking and saying, look, I demand this. This is what comes from us too. We set some principles in place, and that's from a club side of things too. This is the key elements of what we're looking to achieve in a game, and from you as a player, and if everyone is understanding of that journey and what they need to achieve, then it's about how do they in sync with that themselves, but also how do they bring the other players in around them on that journey.
I think you said the right word though. Like, I mean, working through your own life experiences playing football, the times when you had the most success is when everyone's demanding of each other.
Yep.
And so, I've noticed a lot this year, and during that time when we noticed that there seemed to be a lack of trust about what other players are going to do when they've got the ball, but also when they haven't got the ball. And I think we started to have those conversations to make them feel comfortable that it was okay to demand more of their own players, and it was okay to tell them as well and to communicate that as well.
And it's okay to make mistakes. That's where they've got to make the mistakes.
Yeah.
We openly say that mistakes make better players.
Yeah.
If they're not going to make a mistake in the under 20s, and they make a mistake at senior level, that's the wrong place they want to make a mistake.
Better to make them there.
19s, 20s, 16s, go off, do as many mistakes, be adventurous, be all the things you need to do. Find out, I just say openly, to the playing group, just don't make the same mistake.
Yeah, of course.
Learn from it and move on from it.
Yeah, I mean that is an interesting point about sort of the demanding side of it, because you have these different personalities, players that would be not afraid to say to their teammate, if say a fullback's out of position, to say get back, make sure you're getting back, and there'd be other players that would probably be like, if I tell him, I'm going to cop it from him, sort of, you obviously dealing with those different personalities, the introverted and the extroverted, and trying to balance that out. Is that a challenge in itself?
Yeah, I look. I have my own sort of saying that coaching is 95% between the years, and especially with players, and 5%, what we do on the park, and that's the preparation all the way through the week, that we're constantly working, but whether it be me and we'll sort of have our chats, and I'll be saying about Anthony, look, you go and speak to this guy, and we need this, and then I'll do something, and I'll do the same, and so that's how we work off each other from a coaching perspective. And there are many occasions where I've even brought David involved in
good cop, bad cop.
Bad cop.
Sometimes we just change the roles.
Sometimes I'm just always bad cop. But I think it's very important to for the guys also to. I mean, I openly say I'm a very demanding coach.
Yeah.
I demand the quality on the park. I demand the respect between the boys and the respect back from us, because I openly say to them, you give me the respect, I'll give you the respect back. But what we do on the park is a reflection of what we do, how we work, and what we do. So, having that demand on them, I think sort of eases their demand on each other.
Yeah.
Because if we've got the bar that high, and there'll be a game where me and Bells will sit back and we see, they've almost hit, perfect status, and then we turn around and say, you can do more.
Yeah.
And it just raises that bar, one step further. And but I think that's the key for us in that element.
Yeah, it's really about making sure that you hold to your principles. Yeah. That's really important, because if you're not going to maintain your own principles, then obviously you're not going to give the belief to the playing group as well.
Yeah.
So.
We've got some really strong personalities in the team. I mean, there's some interesting characters. And then there's some introverts too.
Yeah.
And it happens with any team. The dynamics, the characteristics of the players within the group. It's about how you gel them.
Yeah.
That's the key. And we've had some, whether it be dinners and trips and things that we do that foster that. But I think in all aspects, they're all very good friends with each other.
That's good.
That's
Yeah.
the key. That's the element. I think
It's very true.
Yeah, with all of the groups that I've had at Pasco Val, the key element is that the guys that don't want to be there, they don't have to be there.
Yeah.
And we've found that there, over a period of time, that some players don't like that environment, they'll leave, and we're okay with that as long as they find their journey, their path. We're okay with that. But for us, in what's incorporated in the group and what we need as a group to achieve the results, and also give them the best step forward for the senior opportunity.
Yeah.
Then there's a clear guide. And we just got to make sure we provide them that guide.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Absolutely. I mean, just we asked this as well to every guest as well about Pasco Val and sort of how you guys sum it up through your experiences. Sort of, most people always go to the community sort of side of things. But I'm curious to hear if you could sum up sort of Pasco Val through your experiences, how would you do that?
Do you want to go first? Or
you go first.
Always have to go first.
I've been preparing for this.
Yeah.
You can answer for both of
go
us.
for it.
Yeah, you can answer for me as well.
Look,
It doesn't mind talking.
I don't mind talking at all. Look, it's interesting. Look, it's the NPL structure, how it is, and what Pasco Val is about. I mean, we pride as a club, we pride ourselves in a high expectations.
Yeah.
We pride ourselves on support, and this is just no job. I mean, the coaching group is very strong, so therefore we expect the playing group to be strong at all year levels. I mean, we see each group sort of work towards each other, supporting each other. So, and that element where we get an under 16 player coming, under 21 player, I'll give you a prime example. I had we had a keeper played in the under 21s from the under 17s from memory, not long ago, 3 weeks ago. And look, he made a couple of mistakes, and that's fine.
Yeah,
it's he's going to get a little bit of wrath from me, and because we're expecting and demanding a set of quality and principles. But what I found, sort of what I love the most is after the game, I just saw every one of the under 21s when I put a hand around his shoulder. He won the game, and just sort of lift his inner himself to not worry about the mistakes. Look at the opportunity got given. Keep working on how to improve. So that's what I think has been the culture of Pasco Val. It's about how do we as a club instill growth within all of our age groups.
Yeah.
And that's you can't sort of buy that. Yeah, that's ingrained. You can't sort of you can't beat that from a club's perspective. And yeah.
Look, Pasco Val's not the biggest club. We all know that.
Yeah.
Right? But they're I would say one of the obviously hardest working clubs going around.
Of course.
Lou, Jimmy, who've been part of the club for a long time. There's other people, Troy. You can't name them all, but and we're lucky enough to have guys like Dean Hennessy, Chicky involved, Vinko part of the club as well, who can share his experiences and advice as well. He's both got amazing playing experience as well as coaching experience. So, we've got lots of people to bounce thoughts and ideas off. Ollie said all the coaches communicate, and that happens a lot, And being part of that, again, it makes you feel part of the club. I walked in from day one and I never felt anything but part of the club. And so, it makes it easy to stay.
Yeah.
So, I have an ongoing joke with a few friends of mine who are involved in a different club, which we won't name, but they're calling every year, but they know that I'm not leaving because my son's settled and he's happy, and but we always have this ongoing joke just around.
And I've got the ball and chain next to him too. So
no, it's not. It's not even about that. Right? It's just a joke. Yeah, I know we have an ongoing joke, but ultimately, it is a community. A small community, but one very welcoming, one very inclusive, and see how hard people like Athena work. And, there's some amazing people at that club that just do so much, not just for the football side of the club, but for other parts. You know, the autistic program now, and they've got other things happening. The girls' program's growing every year. So yeah, there's a lot of people who do a lot of work, but it's a very inclusive place.
Yeah.
And you never feel out of place going there, you know what I mean? So I think that's really important.
I think in a nutshell, the passion is contagious.
Yeah.
That's the element from when you see the likes of Lou and Athena working hard behind the scenes, you don't regret what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you want to be a part of that, and you want to make sure you're doing whatever you can to support that,
Of course.
and make the job easier.
Especially getting up on a Sunday morning to work the canteen, yeah?
Yes, we have done that.
Yeah.
So we don't just coach, we do other things as well.
absolutely.
We do what we have to do to support the club.
Yeah,
and that's
we do.
amazing.
Fantastic. All right, one last one before we go. Langy this weekend. What are we expecting?
A very difficult game.
It was really tough last time, wasn't it?
Look,
it was a bit heated as well, actually.
I used to play against their coach, Ben Caffrey, back in the Richmond days. And look, Ben's very, very knowledgeable person. Been around the traps a while, and look, he's got an honest team, and that's the difficulty that you get when you play against Langwarrin. They're an honest, difficult, physical side, and but they've added some flair with some quality around with some of their players they've got. So look, we're as I say to my boys, every game is a final. Everyone wants to beat Paco. That's what we say every game, and it's their job being the under 21s. To go out there and do a job every week in, week out, and not worry about where they are on the ladder. It's about what they do themselves and how they're developing.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Anthony, Oliver, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Nick.
Hopefully we can get you guys on again before the end of the season. But if anyone at home missed any of it, make sure you have Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts. Catch up with the full show there. But guys, good luck for Langwarrin on the weekend. And we're back again next Tuesday from 7 p.m. But for now, goodbye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You're listening to Paco Radio, brought to you by Senol on FNR, Football Nation Radio.